Okay, RamMohun Roy is called the father of modern India, and I think that title is really accurate. He flourished in Calcutta, the years when he did his main um, contributions were between 1815 and 1833 when he died in London. And In that short period, he did many, many things, many faceted. He was a many faceted person. He was the first Indian that we know of, first one who gave some thought, really deep thought, to the place of India in the world and in world history, and of course in within the British Empire of his time, and so he wanted to see what would how it fit, how it compared to other countries, where it was going, and what was best for it. And he did feel that the British were bringing it since he knew English very well, as well as Sanskrit, Persian, and some other languages, he and appreciated British culture and literature and so forth. He did think that the Indians were greatly benefited from enlightened British rule when it was enlightened, but that it needed some help, and so he was involved in many activities. We know, first of all, his scholarship. He wrote a great deal, particularly on religious subjects, but also on social problems of his day. He founded a number of newspapers which came out weekly in English, in Bengali, and Persian, and these weren't the first newspapers in Bengal, but they were the first that were edited and owned by an Indian. He was the founder of a reformed religion, a reformed Hinduism, which its relationship to Hinduism is very similar to that of Unitarianism to Christianity, sort of a religion without a mystical deity and all of this. And he himself was, in his religious beliefs, was a total monotheist. He, as a scholar, he translated a number of the Vedas, a number of the Upanishads, and argued for the fact that Upanishadic Hinduism was really monotheistic. Now, this religion was small. Known as Brahmo Samaj, in 1828 is when it officially was founded. And though it was small, it was extremely influential in the history of Bengal, and particularly in the 19th century. So many of the great thinkers and leaders of Bengali society and politics and everything were Brahmos, as we call them. He was a social critic, and he fought against a lot of the things that were going on at the time that were discrediting to Hinduism, like sati and other things that were going on within what he considered a decadent Hinduism that really needed reform. He was a political activist. He organized opposition to press acts, to censor the press that were attempted by the British, some of the local British governors when the press seemed to get out of hand. That's always a tendency of government. He fought for freedom of the press. He fought for Indians on juries and jury trial. He fought for many of the things which he considered the rights of Englishmen, and they should be the rights of subjects and citizens everywhere in the world. And this is what his point. In fact, when he went to England, he said, he went to time in 1832 at the time of the Reform Bill, and he wrote a friend and said, if this bill, which would enfranchise a whole huge middle class, he said, if this bill does not go through, I'm going to renounce my British citizenship. So that's really how he felt. And he also was an educator. He founded a number of schools, and he advocated English education because this is what would set India in the right path for the future. So this great man appears to be the first really modern Indian thinker, and is seminal to the whole development of modern India, its nationalist movement, and so forth. And can be seen as a precursor to all of the great Indians who followed. And I would like one other thing I would like to say, and that fits in with this documentary on him, and that is that he was internationalist, and so he gave the sound off, the beginning of Indian political expression, and Indian nationalism was not narrow nationalism, but Indian nationalism was internationalism. And you can see it coming through again in people like Nehru and Krishna Menon and other people in later times, and of course Gandhi. So India considers the whole world important to it. And it doesn't have a national, and this strand of Indian nationalism, which is being challenged today, of course, by Hindu fundamentalism, is an internationalist nationalism, a believer in that the welfare of humanity is important to India.
You also said that you thought RamMohun had foreseen Indian independence. In fact, you were giving me a quote about it earlier on.
Yes.
I think that will come to many as a surprise that may not know the whole body of his works and writings.
Yes. He wrote a friend, I think again in 1828, and he said, if there were certain acts that the British governments, particularly in India, were doing that he didn't like, to restrict Indians, and he said to be careful, because with our English education, can you imagine 100 years of living under British rule and being educated and learning about England and learning about freedom and democracy and free press and all this sort of thing? What kind of people we're going to be? Do you think we'll just lay back? And he said, you better treat us well, because we're not Ireland, we're bigger. You can't get to us very quickly, and you would be better off keeping us as your friends rather than as your enemies.
If you would read that quote about Ireland.
I could read it in here. This is from Stephen Hayes' edited book on readings of Indians in the 19th century. And RamMohun Roy, there's a lot of stuff is in there. The Future of India, it's called, and he talks about supposing that 100 years, hence we're from constant intercourse with Europeans, and what kind of people we're going to be. It says here, it should not be lost sight of that the position of India is very different from that of Ireland, to any quarter of which an English fleet may suddenly convey a body of troops that may force its way in the requisite direction and succeed in suppressing every effort of a refractory spirit. Were India to share 1/4 of the knowledge and energy of that country, Ireland, she would prove from her remote situation, her riches, and her vast population either useful and profitable as a willing province, an ally of the British Empire, or troublesome and annoying as a determined enemy.
Terrific.